Gerry and I were back in the broadcast booth as the QMJHL returned to live action here in New Brunswick. We've got thoughts, the NHL, who's hot, who's not, and COVID's knocked the Raptors down a peg. Will we see them rebound this week? It's Sports QuaranTV next. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. I'm Chris Dobson. With me as always. Actually, not always. Welcome back, Gerry Green. Gone last week. Gerry, it's good to have you back in the co-pilot seat here, my friend. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to start with the return of the QMJHL action in New Brunswick. You and I had a chance to be up in the broadcast booth. Overall, we've got a lot of thoughts to talk about. How you feeling?
Well, good, Chris. It was sorry I wasn't here with you last week, but it was a busy week last week. I was up in Bathurst and saw the Sea Dogs open against the Acadie Bathurst Titan, of which the debut of Ryan Francis, the debut of Vladdy Kotkov was dynamic and exciting, and they had Peter Reynolds on that line too. But it was a 4-goal night for them that night. And then I had the MHL is back. I was at a game of that on Wednesday. You and I, we did a broadcast out of Moncton on Thursday. We did another one on Saturday. It was a great week of hockey. I was glad to be there and enjoyed it immensely.
I was going to say, you must be the most highly sought after voice in the entire QMJHL, MHL right now. Busiest man in New Brunswick, guaranteed.
But it was good, Chris. The game after I saw the St. John and Bathurst, and Bathurst went to Moncton. And another 4-goal performance, and this time was by Bennett MacArthur. And when was the last time, Chris, you would have been to a hockey game, consecutive hockey games, where 2 individuals each scored 4 goals?
It's been a while. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it. I'd have to go back in the stat department. In fact, you might even have those numbers. I'm not sure. I just know that I figured you're my guy when it comes to that info. But overall, no, I agree with you. It's what a phenomenal return to the QMJHL here in New Brunswick. And, and I'm glad you brought up the Bennett MacArthur piece, because, I mean, he almost had 5, Gerry. There was close. He almost had 5. But, of course, they changed the goal. But overall, with Ryan Francis and Kotkov, they started a little shaky. I was watching that game you were doing up in Bathurst, and I wasn't sure how St. John was going to rebound. In fact, I've seen a few things now that have kind of concerned me a little bit in regards to the St. John Sea Dogs. And, yes, they've got a few things they've worked out. They've come away with some wins. But, they looked a little shaky in that Bathurst game. And in that third period of the Moncton game we were calling, there was a few holes that may have been found in the defensive core of St. John.
Yeah, it seems to be they don't, and we mentioned it that night, there doesn't seem to be that killer instinct. I mean, Chris, it was 4-1 after 2 periods of play, and they were being out shooting the Wildcats something like 28-14 or something. And the Wildcats really had nothing going for them. They had Barbashev score his first goal in the queue, which was exciting in the second period of play, but had nothing going for them. Couple penalties by the Sea Dogs. The momentum started for the Wildcats, and before you knew it was tied. And the fact that the Sea Dogs couldn't stop the momentum is a little concerning for Sea Dog fans.
Right. And I mean, look, I'm sure these are all just tweaks. You're still trying to work with your line mates. This is the first couple of games they've seen of live action. And, but the one thing I saw and one thing I loved, and you topped on it earlier, is that top line of Vladdy Kotkov, Peter Reynolds, and Ryan Francis. I mean, every time they were on the ice, something happened. But you got to go back to what Moncton did well. And whatever was said in that second intermission with Coach Dan Lacroix, maybe he didn't say anything at all, but Jacob Hudson came out, looked like one of the best players on the ice in the third period. Max Barbashev had to be the hardest working player of the game that night. Good to see him. It only took him 2 games to finally get his first QMJHL goal. And then he popped 2 the same night. So overall, that line was buzzing. They looked great. Wildcat fans have a lot to be excited about at this point. You take away some wins. I saw an article from Neil Hodge, a good friend of ours, and he was talking about you take away the positives from that game, and that game could have gone one way or the other. There was some questionable officiating in overtime that may have led to that goal.
You got that right.
So, but again, I've already been ripped apart for that, so I won't go too deep into it. But overall, if you're the Wildcats, I mean, you've got to be pleased with what you just did. I mean, St. John's looking to become a force to reckon with, and you scored 3 goals in a third period outing to send this game to overtime and at least come away with a point.
Well, I think they might have figured out, Chris, their recipe for success. And the recipe for success, if you look at all 4 goals, 3 of them were on rebounds. Both of Barbashev's came on rebounds. Right. A nice setup by Daou to Hudson for that 4th tying goal. was a nice play, but Hudson scored his other one on a rebound. That we talked about it during the game. I mean, you keep it simple, stupid. You put the puck to the net and go to the net. And the fact that Barbashev scores his first 2 goals on rebounds, he's parked in front of the net. The other one scored it to him, and it's in the net. I just don't. The Wildcats have talent, but I don't know if they have one-on-one talent, Chris. They've got to be able to work as a team to get the puck to the net and go to the net. It's a simple formula in hockey, and I think maybe the Wildcats need to adopt it in going forward. You could easily tell in their first game against Bathurst that they, playing in practice and playing against your teammates isn't the same as playing against somebody who had already played a game. Matter of fact, Bathurst really capitalized on their opportunities. But again, that night, Moncton did a good job getting pucks to the net, but just couldn't get it by Jan Bednar. So we saw Jan Bednar the other night. And since he's come in, again, he played in St. John on Sunday afternoon, and another 6 got by him. Impressions of the new goaltender that Bathurst has pinned their hopes on?
I'm hoping this is just a couple hiccups. You're trying to get comfortable. You're trying to get used to it. Maybe some defensive breakdowns in regards, because I'm glad. I was going to ask you the same question. I mean, but on the other side of the coin, I mean, we had a chance. So you've had a chance to see Iman play as well for St. John. But Wildcat fans, for the 4th time in 5 games or the 4th time in 6 games, they got Noah Patnote again this year. So you talked about the rebound control. What did you like about Iman? And I mean, as far as Bednar goes, I'm not too stressed just yet. I think everything is going to work himself out. They got a good, solid blue line in front of him. They're just going to work out the kinks there a little bit. But overall, Iman was the guy I was really curious and hoping to see on Friday night, but we didn't get a chance to see him.
He of course has a tremendous amount of experience. He's a 20-year-old. Right. He doesn't have, if you look back, a lot of playoff experience because he was behind Samuel Harvey the most of the time that he was in Rouyn-Noranda. They both pretty much, it was probably a 60-40 during the regular season on who started between Harvey and Iman during the regular season for Rouyn-Noranda. But when it came to playoffs, you look at the statistics, Samuel Harvey carried the load. And of course, it was last year that Iman was to carry the load for Rouyn-Noranda, but there was no playoff. So He really doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience. On the Bathurst side of goaltending, Chris, when do we see Chad Arsenault? Chad Arsenault was the man who put them on the map in the first 10 games of the season. Is it time for Bednar to sit and watch a little bit? Not as a punishment, but just as a, let's, relax for a little bit. But again, Bathurst doesn't play till Friday. When they do host St. John again, Moncton goes to St. John this week.
Yeah, no, and I that's a great question, and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, if I'm them, maybe you give Bednar the night off, put him on the bench, let him take a watch. I mean, don't forget Chad Arsenault was the reason Bathurst became as successful as they were right out of the gate, and he's earned his spot on that roster. So I know that you're pinning all your hopes and dreams on Bednar, but there's nothing wrong with having a great 1-2 tandem in Bathurst right now. They could build each other, grow the confidence, do everything they're doing. But yeah, if I, again, that's why I'm not a general manager, and that's why I'm shooting a show here virtually with you. But it's I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, how many times have you seen NHL goaltenders take a seat just to, just maybe take a breather for a second, kind of collect your thoughts and do what you have to do. So overall, I would like to see that. As far as Moncton going to St. John, I think St. John will be ready. You can't allow, my question mark still lies. We've talked about it time and time again. What's the blue line going to look like for St. John? How are they going to fix the holes? Because that seems to be like they're giving up way too many scoring chances. They're giving up on pucks. A lot of them are trying to carry the puck through the neutral zone, allowing some gaping holes. If you can, they've got great speed. Don't kid yourself. Look, offensively, they're extremely talented. Defensively, I'd like to see a little work there. And I'm sure that's exactly what's going to happen in St. John.
It was good to see, and we talked about it during the week on the broadcast on Rogers, the lack of playing time that Jacob Hudson had. He only had 4 games going into action this week, and in his second game, and it seems like maybe Lacroix has found a formula with Danielle on one side and Barbashev on the other that seems to work, and I'm glad to see him back. And I'm also glad, and despite the fact the amount of goals that were scored by Bathurst on Dakota Lund Cornish, I think he's playing hard. He's playing his best he can. There was some certainly major gaps in that 7-2 loss to Acadie Bathurst. And then there was a couple of goals you saw the other night that really he had no chance on. But I think they're solid that way. I think I need a little bit more from Tristan DeYoung if he wants to jump up on the rush, or is he maybe he's feeling as a 20-year-old his first responsibility should be defense, and maybe that's what the coaching staff is telling him. Said concentrate on that and let us grow that way. So it'd be interesting to see. But the other fellow that interests me is in Bathurst, where Desgagne and Marcotti have Cole Huckins on the wing. And I really still do think Cole Huckins should be down the middle. They've got him playing on the left wing, and I don't know if it's stymied him a little bit, but that's the line or a line that needs to get going for them if they want to have any success.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I like this Bathurst team. I think they're going to cause a few more ruffles than a lot of people think they might come postseason time, when or if that ever happens. People look at Bathurst, and there's one thing I don't necessarily agree with, and that is I've talked to a few people in regards to the QMJHL surrounding Bathurst, and they're like, well, this is exactly where they're supposed to be after their Memorial Cup years back. I'm like, no, I don't agree with that anymore. I mean, they've had plenty of time to get the rebuild underway. Their Memorial Cup is a few years ago now. I mean, the rebuild should have started. Look, and I'm not trying to take away from their accomplishments. And yes, you have to sell the farm to do what you have to do. But if you don't have that asset in your system to kind of make, start building around. So I'm hoping this is kind of where they are. They brought in some great veteran leadership on that younger team they had. Bathurst is going to surprise people, bottom line. And I don't think you need to rule anything out yet. I'm questioning Charlottetown right now the most, Jerry, only because, as we talked about on the broadcast at the Wildcats game, they haven't really been challenged. I mean, what's going to happen when they hit a 7-game series against a team like Bathurst, who might be a little more physical? And yeah, Charlottetown's great. Look, I'm not trying to take away from what their accomplishments have been. They've got Colton Ellis is great. Lucas Cormier has been fantastic. But overall, they haven't been challenged. So I'll be really curious to see what happens if the Atlantic bubble opens again. There is talks that, Halifax, I saw an article today saying Halifax is looking to play some of these New Brunswick teams as soon as possible. So that could very well take place as soon as, sooner the next couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, I did the research today, and a tweet I sent out. They're 18-4, Charlottetown is, against Halifax and Cape Breton. 18-4, which have outscored them 105-55, something like that.
Crazy.
But they played the New Brunswick teams early in the season, and we're 6-0 against them. So it would be fun to have the bubble back in place and have all 6 of these teams go head to head against each other again. It appears, I believe, this weekend, the Q teams are going to get back into their bubbles and resume play, in which the Val-d'Ors and the Chicoutamis and the other teams that we favor over on that side will get back into action. So it's still a ways away, and I don't know. I know Gilles Courteau says he wants to have a President's Cup. What about a Memorial Cup, Chris? Is there a chance of that happening?
So, okay, that's a great transition, because I was about to just ask you about it. So, yes, I mean, come hell or high water, Gilles Courteau has made it very clear there will be a President's Cup awarded in the QMJHL. They're not sure how it's all going to play out yet, but I'm expecting you'll see within the next week. But if you're asking my opinion, no, I do not think we'll see Memorial Cup. I think it's officially time to just kill the dream. I think it's over. I think, and we've been on this bandwagon for the last few weeks now, Jerry. There's no way you're going to get this tournament in. It just can't happen. You got the draft still you would have had to move. You've got everything else that's taking place. It's just not going to happen. And, don't shoot the messenger for saying it, guys. And hopefully I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will eat my words. But I can't see any scenario where the Memorial Cup gets underway. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, you got to feel bad for the kids. But overall, no, I don't think we will, Jerry. I think the Memorial Cup dream is dead. And if that is the case, it would not shock me to see, them set a number, we'll say on like 35 to 40 games in the QMJHL, and then they'll look at a postseason side of things.
Yeah, the OHL hasn't even started. The WHL has started to sprinkle some games. So would you have the WHL teams play 20 games? I don't know what you'd have the OHL. I don't even know anything I've read lately about when the OHL. Yes, you're going to have them play a really short little schedule and then have a Memorial Cup for the sake of. And the other thing about it, Chris, and we've talked about this with the World Junior Championship, if you're hosting a Memorial Cup, it's a moneymaker. So you're not going to have fans there, but there's going to be an expense for you to run it. Unless the CHL wants to cover all the expenses, then you
There's
can
no
host
way.
it anywhere and any time. But again, when is that time? Is that time in June? Do you go that late? Do you disregard the calendar altogether and
You
put it
can't.
on whenever you can? I don't think it happens. You're right. And they'll make an announcement. They'll put a death nail in it, I think, in the next week. So that'll be a wait and see for us. Chris, lately watching a lot of hockey on TV. Finally get to go to the rink and watch some hockey, but wondering who's hot, who's not in the NHL. Well, you look, and we'll start with the Canadian division. Nobody really, Chris. Those top three, those Edmonton, Toronto, and Winnipeg, are all like 5-5, 6-4 in their last 10. And Montreal and Calgary are starting to make up some ground. And Calgary, don't look now, with Daryl Sutter, has won 3 in a row. What's your impressions of the North Division lately?
I'm starting to like it again, to be honest with you. And I'm not just saying this, this takes me back to my Charlottetown analogy from the Q earlier, and that is the Leafs at one point were looking like they were going to start running away with the North Division. But don't look now, Jerry. Your Jets became one of the hottest teams in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, no, they were. They looked really good. Not last night, but they looked good.
No, they did not.
But overall, I like everything. I talked about how much I love this young Vancouver Canucks team. I can't wait to see these guys develop and grow over the next couple of years. And it's all going to start with net minding for them. I mean, Thatcher Demko is going to be the real deal for Vancouver. I think he's going to be a great goaltender. But as far as the Calgary Flames and Sutter goes, doesn't shock me in the least. Calgary's a very talented hockey team. Sutter's not going to be there long term. Don't kid yourself. I don't think anyway, just personal opinion. But these players are going to get the best out of him. I'm still waiting on the Sam Bennett situation to kind of unfold. I don't know what's going to happen there. But overall, no, look, this is up for grabs right now. The Leafs haven't been as hot as they have been. They've lost a couple now. In fact, at one point, I think they lost 3 or 4 in a row.
Lost Ottawa.
Right. And which was a great story, by the way. Joey Decord playing net. I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as far as the Habs go, like I said, again, nothing to stress about. Carey Price has looked unbelievable when he's back to himself.
I don't think we mentioned the Habs, did we?
You mentioned the North Division, and ironically they're playing there.
All right. Okay.
That's all I'll give you. Carey Price, the superstar. So move on. He's not going to Seattle. Carry on.
Well, the hottest division, Chris, happens to be the Eastern Division, where the New York Islanders have won 9 in a row, if you didn't know. Washington's won 5 in a row. Pittsburgh's won 6 in a row. And here Boston now slipped in the standings. They only won 3 of their last 10. Do you ever think about the Islanders when you think about the NHL? Because they're the hottest team.
Absolutely, I do. And I'll tell you why. I'm a huge Matthew Barzal fan. I have been for the last couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as a dark horse goes, I really enjoyed watching the Islanders play hockey because now there's specific reasons as to why that is. Nothing made me happier than to see them succeed once John Tavares showed his Toronto Maple Leaf bed sheets and left. That made me extremely ecstatic to watch them do that. Jordan Eberle fits in so well there as well. Unfortunately, knock on wood, I love, Noah Dobson's going to be a huge asset for them. The Islanders are great. You follow them on what they're doing. They're young, they're feisty, they're talented. But yeah, did I see them being the hottest team? No, I didn't. But yes, they are very talented, and I love watching them play.
And did you know the Florida Panthers have won 4 in a row? Carolina has won 8 in a row, and they lead Tampa in the Central Division. Does that shock the guts out of you?
Yes, very much so. Now, again, remember, Tampa's doing all of this without Kucherov right now, who has gone through everything he's been through. And according to the media, I think they say he will be ready for the postseason. It's amazing how that timing worked out. But yeah, the question mark I'm going to have, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit, but is that you got to remember the trade deadline's in the middle of April. It's like 3 or 4 weeks away. Teams are going to start looking to make moves now due to the 2-week quarantine that comes with players crossing the border. Even with their vaccinations that they announced today, they're still going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. But I don't want to talk about the trade deadline because I want to talk about not who's hot, but who's not. And that is the Buffalo Sabres. An absolute embarrassment of a hockey team in the National Hockey League right now. I think it's also hilarious that Taylor Hall, when he made his decision to go to Buffalo, he took a couple meetings with these teams that wanted to talk to him, said he was going to Buffalo, signed that big contract in Buffalo because he wants to go to a team who wins, and the team is an absolute dumpster fire. And nothing brings a smile to my face more than guys who make arrogant comments like that. And then you go on in now, then they say Jack Eichel's out with injuries. Jack Eichel hasn't wanted to be in Buffalo for the last year and a half. So in the offseason, you're going to see Jack Eichel gone. I I have no doubt in my mind you're going to see Taylor Hall in the move come trade deadline time. There's no way he's going to re-sign in Buffalo. Maybe that was his plan all along. Buffalo's going to be in the midst of a lottery pick. How many times has Taylor Hall been involved in a lottery pick? How many?
Yeah. Well, did you know he only has 4 or 5 playoff games under his belt in all these years he's been in the NHL?
Man, who knows?
Doesn't have many.
I would like to see him I'd love to see him back in Edmonton. I would love it. Somehow, if they can find a way to make it work, I would.
Did you realize that the Chicago Blackhawks are in a playoff position? And can you name more than 2 Blackhawks like Kane and Keith? Is there somebody else that you know that plays for the Chicago Blackhawks?
Alex DeBrincat.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Well,
but can you name anybody else?
Don't forget Highmore. Highmore's down there too.
Oh my God. Okay, you know what I mean.
No, you're failing miserably.
They're a team of
twice on
there's a team of no names there. You can't name who's in net, can you?
Subban.
In Chicago.
In Chicago? Who's down there now?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it just they sneakingly in the Central Division have found themselves in a playoff spot, and there's a lot of good teams there. Like you got Dallas there and Nashville there, so it's a little bit of a surprise that they're in a playoff spot as of today. Also looking from the outside in is Arizona, Chris. I thought they'd be moving up in that Western Division, but Vegas and Minnesota. And Minnesota, I know Jason King's a big Minnesota fan, and they've won 4 in a row, and they've got a highly touted rookie here. I can't pronounce his name, and I don't have it off the end of my tongue. But Minnesota seems, with those jerseys, I like those North Star wild combination jerseys. What a great look.
Absolutely. In fact, out of some of the reverse retro jerseys, that one's probably one of my favorites. I mean, it's obviously not the Colorado one. I think the Jets could have done more. You should probably know that. But overall,
I agree.
Yeah.
And didn't the Canadians dump their reverse jersey because they thought it was bad luck? Didn't they do that?
They should just light it on fire.
Oh, here we go.
No. Don't. I told you not to.
I lit you on fire. Let's move on then, Chris. Let's go to the Raptors and what's going on in the world of COVID in the NBA. It's hit the Raptors. They've been without 3 key ingredients in Siakam and Van Vliet and OG Anunoby. They found themselves losing their last 5 and out of a playoff spot currently at 17-22, 3-7 in their last 10. But the key is this week, Chris, they've got Detroit, who are dead last in the East this week. They've got Utah, which will be a good test at home. Well, if you got Tampa Bay home. Right. And then they've got Cleveland, who's behind them in the standings. Good chance to try to measure where you are. But is there word that any of those players are coming back?
So they're looking to have 1 or 2 of the guys back in the lineup for Wednesday's game, and then they're hoping to have all 3 of them back by the weekend. Fred Van Vliet's the key piece here that's not there. I mean, OG Anunoby. I mean, don't look. I'm not trying to take away from Pascal Siakam, but Fred Van Vliet can do what he does. But they're going to need Siakam to be better, and he started to show shades of what Siakam's capable of. I mean, there's a reason he signed the contract he signed in Toronto, and the expectations, of course, Raptors fans, management, everybody kind of went through the roof, and he's a huge key piece of the organization moving forward. But yeah, so if you can get Van Vliet back to run the offense, but the question I have in regards to the Raptors directly was, I saw a great quote. I'm not sure if you saw this the other day. They asked about Kyle Lowry and whether or not he was going to retire as a Raptor and how it was going to work. He claims that even if he has to sign a 1-day contract with the Raptors, he will retire a Toronto Raptor, which makes me believe. Yeah. Right, which makes me believe, does he have something on his mind that maybe there's reason to believe he might get dealt, or is his way of saying I'll retire Raptor regardless, and will they just put the franchise tag on him for now and just let him ride it out? But then at that point, why do you have him and Van Vliet at the same time?
The word was, of course, the fairy tale type of ending for Kyle Lowry is if you got traded to Philadelphia. I don't see the Raptors this season trading him to Philadelphia. I think the fans would very much dislike that. So I don't see that happening. Let's move on to golf, Chris, which this past weekend, the Players Championship happening down in Florida made us weekend golfers feel much better about ourselves.
Wild
when the 2 leaders, DeChambeau and Westwood, are playing the 4th hole at the tournament. DeChambeau duffs it off the tee, and Westwood slices it about 50 yards. Didn't that make you feel better about your game?
Oh, as soon as that happened, I went out to the garage and started swinging my clubs. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just a bizarre final round. Just to see the whole thing take place. And again, it's DeChambeau for some reason doesn't look. I like Bryson. I think he's great, but it doesn't shock me. I feel like he has the capability to either be a superhero or, he's going to look not so super after all. Lee Westwood, I've always been a fan of. So, you hate seeing stuff like that happen. But Justin Thomas, of course, goes away with the win. I mean, you've got to be pleased with the outcome there. I think he finished the final round at a -4. I think the leader on Sunday, the best round on Sunday was a -6, I think, eh?
Yeah, that was Corey Connor, the Canadian, who was first in the house at -10. He had a -6. He tied for the lowest round of the final round. And he was in the top 5 the week before, and he makes the top 10 this week. The things are bright for him. And one of the things about golf is having amount of confidence. So Thomas, I don't know how big he is, Chris, but it still amazes me how a fellow of his size, and I would have to guess, maybe he's 5'10", 170 pounds, that he can hit it as far as he can. These guys generate such huge club speed that it's envious of us big guys and how they're able to do that. So it was an exciting tournament. The Masters is coming up, and that'll be fun too. But just wanted to get that in about Westwood and DeChambeau, and about how it makes us weekend golfers feel so much better. Curling's Gerry, the next thing I want to talk about. What? Go ahead.
Nothing. I was going to try to transition, but you keep taking the titles. So let's talk about curling. I want to get your opinion. The Briar. What are your thoughts? We got 2 minutes to go.
Well, Brendan Botcher from Alberta gets in the final with Kevin Cooey. Cooey goes through most of the event in good shape, but Botcher was there for the 4th time, Chris, and finally gets the victory that gets him the crown. I felt so good for him and his team, of which Kevin Martin's son plays on his team too. So I was happy for them as well. So the Calgary bubble still continues as the mixed doubles championships are this weekend, and they're on TSN. It is fun to watch it. And here, keep this in mind. All the great golfers, all the great curlers are there, except for probably Holman. She's the only one that's probably not going to be there. All the rest of them are going to be Jennifer Jones playing with her husband, and Cooey's playing with Carrie Arneson. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's a unique game. You should tune it in.
Oh, look, I enjoy curling. I can't stay up to date. I'm just trying to jump into curling now. After talking to you the last couple of weeks, it's kind of started to become, okay, I'm going to start putting that up on my repertoire just a little bit, just so I can have a curling conversation with Gerry throughout the whole process. And I can tell you, like I told you a couple of weeks ago, I have curled, and it is absolutely difficult, but I had probably some of the most fun I've ever had.
Chris, just one little plug. Melissa Adams and Alex Robichaud will be representing New Brunswick at the event.
Absolutely great. Gerry, we've got about 20 seconds left here. It has been an absolute flyby show. Guys, don't forget, if you ever want us to talk about anything specific or topics you want us to hit, tweet Gerry and I both out. We'd love to hear from you. Guys, it's been an absolute treat. We hope you've had just as much fun this week watching Sports QuaranTV as Gerry and I do, putting it in your living rooms and on YouTube, of course. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We absolutely appreciate it. And don't forget, we got a lot of QMJHL action we're covering on Rogers TV. You're not going to want to miss it, guys. We'll see you next week.